So this is Brooke, and we're talking taps again. And I am here with the great Mr. Dwayne Smallwood from Bridge and Tunnel. Came down to Astoria to pick up some stuff, so I thought I'd bring you guys another tap room owner so you're not having to see my face. So, Dwayne, you guys have been here 3 years?
3 years yesterday we opened the doors.
And in the 3 years that you've been here, what is the most interesting thing? What day stands out the most in your brain?
One weekend, Festival of Dark Arts, 1 week after I opened, having 3,000 beer drinkers show up in Astoria, right across the street from my shop. It was my biggest day of my first year, and I'd been open 7 days. That whole weekend was a blur. I got to see so many friends from Seattle and Portland pass through and get to check out my shop and hang out. But yeah, that whole weekend was a blur.
Oh, I imagine. I can't even imagine. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been here for Dark Arts. I don't know how many damn times. I've performed at Dark Arts, and then I've been doing security for Jack for every year. This is the first year I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So, of all the things that you didn't know about before you bought a tap room, what has been the one thing that, like, for me, I knew jack about plumbing. And I have learned not only about plumbing, I've learned how to run CO2 lines, I've learned how to, So what's the one thing you didn't know anything about that you've learned about because of the tap room?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I mean, I just knew about beer. I knew what I liked. I knew how to talk about it. But yeah, the things like the electrical and the plumbing and when there's a problem, you better learn how to fix it because you're on somebody else's timeline otherwise, and they're not coming. They're not coming.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long drawn out situation. I sprung a water leak one day, and I luckily knew where my shutoff was for the water. Ran down, shut everything off, and called 3 different plumbers, and they all told me it'd be 2 to 3 weeks. All right. So off to Home Depot I went and figured it out, and it works. So
Yep.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I've got more than a few projects that work, and they're still working, and sometimes I'm just stunned by that. I'm like, wow, this thing hasn't broken yet. How did that happen? Because I am not a handy person.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
But when that's the beautiful thing about the internet too, is you can look it up pretty quickly and you can patch it back together. You can make it work until you can get it done correctly. Thankfully, a few things I've done seem to have been done correctly, so I haven't had to worry about it. But yeah, that's the day-to-day. What could go wrong is always in the back of your mind.
So 17 taps for beer.
Yeah.
And then 4 cider taps?
2 cider, 2 wine, and then I keep a non-alcoholic kombucha on.
Okay. And you were telling me earlier, you in 3 years have repeated a beer maybe 4 or 5 times?
I think 4 or 5 different beers have been a repeat, other than a collaboration that I've done that we've kept on tap while it was available. But yeah, otherwise 17 different taps have all been different beers each time. Blow a keg, something new comes on. Blow an IPA, a different IPA comes on. Which is really fun because, you blow a Hellas and like, okay, well, I've got a Kolsch I can put on. It's,
It's German. It works.
Yeah. And, so I keep 4 or 5 lagers on tap, 4 or 5 IPAs on tap, depending. Always have a couple of sours on. Always have a couple of stouts on, or porters, or a barley wine, or,
Yeah.
So it's been fun getting to my regular customers, getting them to try new things all the time. See them, you'll see him walk in the door, and he always drinks big barrel aged stouts. Or a little sample before he even has a chance to look at the list.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll have that.
I'll have that. Yeah, one of the funny things is so many of my regulars will sit there, and not even regulars, but people who are semi-regular. They're not in a lot, but they come in a couple of times a month.
Yeah.
And they really like the fact that I'll remember, hey, you had this last time, try this.
You should, yeah.
And, because a lot of the time they'll come in and they'll be like, I can't remember what I had last time. I'm like, it's probably not on there anyways.
That's exactly, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So as far as, you're kind of the beer geek. You love beer. You talk about beer. When you get somebody who's new to beer, does that excite you? Do you want to talk to them about beer? Do you want to,
I don't want to geek out on them. I don't want them to think that they're joining some sort of weird club of, I don't know enough, so I can't talk to other beer drinkers, or, craft beer drinkers. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy, because there's plenty of them. I've just sat at bars with them. But, it's like, well, I don't really know what I like. I'm like, well, what do you normally drink?
Same question I ask.
And they'll say, well, I normally drink Coors Light. Okay, well, let's start you with this. Try this Pilsner, try this lager. Oh yeah, no, I kind of like that. Next time they come in, try to bump them up a little bit to maybe a pale, or, it's like, well, I don't like hops. That's the one that gets me. I don't like really hoppy things. Okay, I don't know what you mean.
No.
That's the one where I have to sort of get a little geeky with them. I'm like, okay, you say you don't like IPAs or you don't like hoppy beers, but when's the last time you had one?
No.
Oh, I don't really drink them. Okay, well, what made you not like them? Oh, well, I had this beer 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Okay, so you don't like pine trees and fresh cut lawn. Got it. Try this. Oh, that tastes like mangoes and pineapples. And yeah, that's an IPA. Oh, I didn't know they tasted like that.
Yeah. My girlfriend calls sours not beer.
Oh.
And because I took her over to Fort George last night, she now calls stouts beer plus. Because we got a selection of Maratroshkas over there that are limited release.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's like dessert.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Those rum barrel ones right now are amazing.
Yeah,
Oh.
They really are. They really are. So one of the things that you're really known for is you have one of the best bottle selections and bottles, quality of bottles for the size of shop you have.
Thank you.
Is always really, everybody respects it. And one of the things I want to find out is, what makes you decide I'm going to bring this in and try it versus I'm not going to bring these guys in? Sure, you can bring DeGard in and you always sell DeGard. You can bring Ale Song in, you always sell Ale Song. But there's stuff that you brought in that I've never seen anywhere else. I probably could find it wandering around a certain store in Multnomah Village, but that's about it,
Yeah. Paying attention to just certain social media accounts. One that most recently that comes to mind is Wildflower, which is a brewer out of Australia. He'd been talking on I think Milk the Funk podcast and a few others about what he was doing, and it really got excited. And then all of a sudden, it showed up stateside. super small batch stuff, but like, I'm gonna pull the trigger. This sounds amazing. And it was really funny because I got it in, put it out in the case, and didn't really like advertise that I had got it. And I think I might have had it in a picture of some, here's some new stuff that came in. But one of the brewers from Fort George came over and he was looking at the case, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you got this." He bought a bottle of each variety, and he's like, "I was going to ask you about this, but I thought, well, it's Australia and he's small and there's no way we'll ever see it over here. And now you've just got it sitting on the shelf." It was like, he's like, "How did you hear about him?" And I told him, and he's like, "That's how I heard about him."
No.
Well, I guess I'm listening to the right people then. But that was a fun find that, you rolled the dice. Sometimes you do. Luckily, my dice rolls have been overall pretty successful. There's been a couple of things that have been more, I have to get you to try it, or I have to, really introduce you to who this is or what they're doing. But overall, the people want to try new things.
Yeah, I've learned with grisettes, trying to get people to try grisettes, and if you find good ones, and like Matchless does a really good one, they really will like them because the amount of flowers that's in them and how different they can be.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something you have to talk people into.
Yep. Yeah. It's something they've never heard of.
Yeah.
And, same thing with a kvass or anything, like, you get into some of those weirder styles, and it's like, "Oh, I don't even know, is that a beer?"
Yeah. Yep. Well, listen, we're running a little longer than we normally do, so I just want to say thank you very much for letting me come in and do this with you.
Absolutely.
And, guys, if you're watching my channel and you've seen my channel, you know how much I love beer. I'm going to tell you something. Dwayne loves beer as much as I do. He's got a better selection than I do because he's got lots and lots and lots of cases and coolers. I only have a broken cooler.
Oh, no.
So, come on in when you're in Astoria. Definitely see Dwayne. Let him know you saw him on the cast here, so that he can, say, "Oh, okay, I know what I don't have to talk to you about." And thanks again, Dwayne. I really
Absolutely,
appreciate
Brett.
it.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate it.